bowels of the internet, here comes the Dungeon Boys.
Yeah. And guess who's back?
Oh, me.
And me.
Oh, hey. It's Jair.
And Nick.
Man, it's good to have you back.
Thank you.
Solo is a weird sensation, let me tell you.
Yeah, I haven't heard that episode, but I'll sit through it.
It's weird. But I'm excited when I have to go someplace and you have to do a solo.
Oh.
I'm really excited to hear that one.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'll bring all my friends from
Albuquerque into my house. Uninvited. I see how it is.
How's it going, everybody? I'm glad to be back. I'm glad you guys get to hear my beautiful voice again.
You were gone?
Yeah, I was gone.
Oh, where were you?
I was celebrating Thanksgiving in New York City.
Ooh.
That was something. That was something very eventful. Lots of things happened. Didn't get a chance to play board games because everyone was too busy stuffing themselves with turkey and pumpkin pie. But cool stuff. I got to do a bunch of stuff. It was my first time in the city actually doing things. I drove through it like last summer, and it was awful. But just going in it and just walking it, just seeing everything, seeing the buildings and what did I do? There's a lot of things I did. I went to see The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. That was really bizarre because it's always been a dream of mine. I love Stephen Colbert, dude. I love him. He was like my father figure with me growing up.
Late Gen X, early millennial got like the Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
And then like everyone else after just got Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
And the Colbert Report was just really cool. I think watching the Colbert Report, I got my first kiss.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was really weird because everyone.
I thought you meant like live at Stephen Colbert. You got your first
kiss.
No.
I
was like, what?
No.
I get it now. Yeah.
Watching the Colbert Report.
Yes.
It was weird.
I'm caught up now.
But I went to watch it. It was interesting. They had George R.R. Martin doing an interview there. That was pretty interesting. But it was kind of bizarre, just like just sitting there and having like, all right, so you're gonna laugh at this joke, and if it doesn't go right, you're gonna have to laugh at it again the same way you did the first time. And we tried. We all tried. But it was really fun. It was really, really just something else. Very New York.
Very New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else did I do? I went to a bunch of museums. It was really, really cool. I just walked around the city. I went to a billionaire's Thanksgiving party. So just family that I have in New York. I'm not gonna disclose who because I don't want you guys.
Bill Gates.
I have some family up in New York, and they're friends with this billionaire lady, and we went to her Thanksgiving party, and they had a bunch of dessert. It wasn't as good as I would have expected out of a billionaire's party, but they did ask for my coat as I came into the house, and I've never experienced that.
That's so weird.
And I'm glad that I took part in the celebrations of the 1%.
Gotta get it done at some point. You gotta do it at some point, I guess. Imagine. Yeah.
No, it was really interesting. But yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be either. They weren't like keeping me like they in a basement afterwards, you know.
Wait, what kind of party is this?
A billionaire's party. Fun stuff. I'm really glad I went. I saw so many people I love, so many like friends, family, and yeah, it was fantastic. How about you? How do you hold up without me?
A small summary of last episode. I was pinned down and told to play Blackstone Fortress.
Okay.
Which we played, and it was interesting. I was later told how incorrectly we played.
Oh.
And it does change some things.
Who do you play with?
Sean, the owner of Eton Games and Hobbies. But there's one in Albuquerque and one in Houston. I'm just going to keep that plug going until someone decides to do something about it. But we sat down with a bunch of Warhammer people and played that. And what he told me changed some things, I would say, about it. but in the end, I don't know if it would truly change my opinions overall. In the end, no.
Yeah, I remember you were kind of recommending me to try that one out as a kind of like a not super complex and heavy duty.
Oh, no, not me. No. Kill Team.
Oh, okay. It's not
Kill
the same.
Team. Okay, so the difference is Warhammer is Blackstone Fortress is a big board game that is made with sort of tiles and stuff. Warhammer is the big sprawling figures across the table. Kill Team is you take that $1,000 army you've been working on and you just take 10 little figures and you just put them on like a little skirmish spot. That's the one if I ever got into it. That's the one I would do.
Okay.
But yeah, that was an interesting thing. And then I had Thanksgiving. I always bring board games to every like holiday just in case. Yeah. They're just there. It's nice. There's no reason not to have code names in the car because if it gets played, great, and if not, whatever. But then it turned out my place had over 30 people.
Oh wow!
And I was in the let's just say I was one of like maybe 5 people not on AARP. So yeah, there was no interest in that, and that was absolutely okay. But for me recently, I'm going to keep it brief. I got to do my first Dungeon Master session.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dungeon Boys, Dungeon Master. I got to play an RPG I've been very interested in ever since I discovered it on. I
think we talked about it.
Yeah.
On one of the
at Gen Con was Kids on Bikes. I finally got the book and I read through it and learned a bunch. I have even more questions than I started out with, and I got to play a session with some coworkers on a slower day, and it was a very interesting sensation. But so interesting, we'll be discussing it later. What's first on the agenda today?
Oh yeah, so we got a good amount of games. We're done with Scythe, so we cannot. We have to fill it up with other stuff. We got Span City. Yes.
You know what's better than building a building?
What's better
building
than
a bigger building?
A bigger building. In your color. Yeah, and we got, after that, we're going to talk a little bit about Rise of Tribes.
Ooh.
This is, I think the first game we played in game night.
I think so, yeah.
Well, we've been saving it for...
We've been saving it for a big break, because both of these games are made by Breaking Games, and I've been wanting to cover them both at the same time, because I feel they're both excellent medium games, and they're love, hate, no matter what happens, they are a delight to talk about. And so that'll be great. We're going to be hitting it with that tea time.
Ooh, yeah.
Long
I
awaited.
missed that tea.
I had coffee last time. It was delicious, but I'm glad to be back on the tea. We are not doing a developer journal or diary this session. I've really dropped the ball on the board game stuff.
We'll get to it.
But I think I have some interesting stuff for the next time.
Nice, yeah.
But after that, what's after that?
We are talking about smaller games.
Yes, our stocking stuffers. We started that last week. We have 2 for you this time. And The Mind is the first one. Oh, been dying to talk about that one. Oh, boy.
And then we have Cockroach Poker.
Oh, it's a cursed game. I've had this game for like a little under a year, and I just got it to the table the other day. So really excited to do that. And then, like I said, we're to cover Kids on Bikes. I'm going to tell you about that because it's such a unique situation, even in the RPG world, maybe. But a lot of good stuff. We were setting up, and I said this could be one of our most interesting episodes.
Nice.
And I'm really excited to dive in. So let's see here.
All right. So
Expansity. So go ahead. Tell me what you remember of Expansity.
Well, I remember it. I remember it like it was yesterday. Because it was.
It was.
So Expansity. It's Breaking Games where you are basically kind of like a sim builder. You're developing your real estate in the city. You're building buildings and you're trying to get them as high as possible. You're trying to get them next to things that get you more points. And the whole deal of the game is to mix and match these points for maximum winnings. Yeah. The more you build, the more chances you have to be next to something that will benefit you. The more you build upwards, the more multiplier in the points you get and stuff like that. We'll definitely get into the details of like how everything works, but basically Sim Builder and it's a toy.
Yes,
it's basically a toy.
It's a great toy in that sense, in that you score when you cap a building, when you put a roof on top of it. You'll score 1 point for every floor, every piece you put on top of it. During your turn, you will always place down a tile, and it's going to be one maybe you can put a building on, or one that modifies scores. After that, then you'll build or take pieces in, things like that. And that's probably, I'd say, the meat of the game is, you get 3 build actions, and that's either you can put one of your building pieces on a story, or you can gather some, because you only have a limited amount, and you have to keep gathering them if you run out. Then if you want to cap a building, you can, and then you grab another tile, and you go until the sack of tiles is empty. First off, the production quality on the game, I think, is excellent.
Yeah.
The pieces are... It's a beautiful game. It's got all the different colors. That off pastel-y color.
Right.
I kind of dug that.
Yeah.
All the tiles are very clear.
Yeah,
very clear.
The thematic tiles have such a neat design to them. Like the hospitals, the banks have like once you see it, it doesn't say explicitly it's a bank.
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
a dollar sign.
Oh, it's a bank. Okay, yeah.
The iconography is super clear on that. And whenever we'd go to score points, for one thing I was worried about, because the first time I played it was at Gen Con, when we were throwing it up there, is sometimes you had to look around buildings because they just get taller and taller.
They stack up so much.
But thankfully, the way things score is the 2 types of buildings you can build are residential, which go onto green spaces, or commercial, which go into blue spaces. Still very clear. But when you do look at them, and let's say we're working on a commercial, well, putting a church next to commercial is actually negative points for it, because that's not helpful. But putting it next to a shopping mall, that's exactly what commercial wants. And you add up all these together, and it's so easy just look around the building and see, okay, when I cap this building, I look around and see all the blue modifiers on the buildings. Super easy to understand. And that's really nice, especially with how difficult it is to look at the board after a while.
Right.
Because the growth. Okay, so there are just small residentials, and then it gets bigger, and then you start laying out your commercials, which have to get pretty big,
pretty high to be able to score them.
And then you start pressing your luck, like, will I be able to do this? Will I be able to do that? And then we get into the gameplay of it, which is, I think, the game is it's a mix of relaxing and microaggression. For the most part, you're just sitting there like, ooh, can I do this? Ooh, can I do that? And it feels satisfying when you cap 3 buildings like you've been planning, or you get 2 contracts done at the same move, or something like that. You're just like, wow, that was super satisfying. There were 40 points.
There were moments where I had a whole plan laid out, and then I do it, and then I see how it benefited me, but it also screwed other people up.
I would never say the game. You never get crippled.
No.
In Expansity, but you can be just slowed down a smidgen. That's what I was thinking of the term last night. Microaggression feels right, because there was a point we were playing with Mariah, and I was going to put 2 shopping malls between my commercial building, and I was just going to have so many points off of it. And that spot, for no reason, she just had to put a tile somewhere, and she didn't have a strategic spot, and she put a church next to it, hurting me a bit. And I just... No! What are you doing? And I was way over dramatizing. It made it, instead of getting 30 points, I got
you still
15.
Won.
Yeah, no, no. My strategy in that game is always try to pop off as many contracts as I can. And, but overall, it was just those great moments of being stopped. When I groan in a game, typically it's a good thing. It's oh no, someone stopped me. Yeah. But even then, this game is very relaxing. It's very friendly.
Yeah, I had mentioned well, mostly because we were a little bit tipsy, so it did take a little bit longer to go into the rounds. But I was telling you how there's a lot of wait in the game, so you're just waiting for other people to do their thing. But you said it's a maximum of 4, so it never goes over that, and it wasn't uncomfortable. It was just I want to do my thing. I was going to ask, so you have 3... You have the 3, I don't know what they were, the 3 objectives. So
at the end of the game, there are goal cards.
Right,
and they sit out there, and they're available, and they just tell you, who has the most controlled properties. who has the most properties next to parks.
Right.
And what was the other one? Who has the most contracts completed.
Right. Are those is there a bunch of them?
No. But there are more than that. There are only 6 gold cards.
Okay.
And that was an odd choice because I don't know if like maybe they couldn't think of other ones that wouldn't break the game or something.
Yeah.
But if they were to like release an expansion, the first thing I would say is just more of those cards for the sake of variety.
Yeah.
Because where I think we were playing with Josh, and the way Josh was playing at first, he was going wide and he was just spreading out as much as he could. And I think he was going for that most controlled properties. But then he, his plans changed halfway. But it was great to give you that idea of like, hey, let's put them next to parks. And that was interesting in our game. The thing is you draw the tiles randomly. And that's where the variety of the game truly comes from. Last time I played this, it was 2-player with our coworker Adrian, and all we drew were residential tiles. No modifier. There was one modifier. We both just swarmed it. And outside of that was just there were no commercial buildings, and residentials can only go 3 stories high, so they're not worth a lot of points. Whereas commercials can't be capped until they hit 4, but then they can go on forever. And so we're just building this giant neighborhood. And then all the plus green modifiers come out, and it was just this weird game. In this one, the parks all came out immediately.
And they were out there. Everyone was just jumping on them and trying to get next to them.
It was like piranhas on a cow.
And actually everyone had the same amount of buildings next to parks. So we had to split those points up.
A 4-way tie, and that was really fascinating. But the next time we play, we may not see the parks till the very end of the game.
Yeah.
And so then you're like, oh, well, let me just sneak it next to this piece I already have. And that variety is the lifeblood of expansion.
Okay, so that's what I was worried about. Because I asked you last night, every time you play, what difference do you see that, like, I just don't want it to be a game that every time you play it, it's the same thing. But in that sense, that variety of getting random tiles, I guess that's the thing that changed it. And I would definitely want to play it again, see like what kind of weird stuff comes up.
Well, here's the thing: is you still empty the bag. Mm-hmm. Every tile we saw,
every tile is going to be there.
Is going to still show up. So all the same number of tiles show up. So an interesting idea with the game is that, and I don't quite know how to put it, but you get that variety, but it all still comes out. It's just what order it does.
Right.
And so there is variety. And it is the lifeblood, but it's not necessarily, it's not crazy wild. And that's the thing, is nothing about Expansity is crazy. It's not a game of excitement. It's a very relaxed, paced game. Like I said, with our drinks yesterday and our max players and everything, that was the maximum wait time I've ever experienced with it. Because at the end of the day, you're like, well, I have to lay down a tile.
Right.
I've had it the entire time, and for the most part, usually your idea isn't taken by the time it's your turn again.
Right.
You go and do it. You sit there and wonder, do I build? Do I gather materials? And you do things, and you complete what you try to do. Ipso facto, there you go.
Yeah.
And so it's very clear cut what it is. And it presents itself beautifully because it's a game. We were just playing at someone's house.
Right.
But if we were at Eton or something and we started to play that, it would start to expand and people would be able to see that and look and say, oh, wow, that is a game that pulls people's attention.
It has good pull. It has the game itself is good advertisement for the game.
Yes. It pops on the table.
So two things. So I think we've talked about how certain people worry about randomized setup and how it hinders the experience of the board game. And I think this game has that randomized setup that you don't really have to worry about that it's randomized because it's never gonna damage your gameplay. All your gameplay is knowing where to set up these tiles correctly.
Setup of the game is always identical. The gold cards are different, but everything else is identical in that there's a city hall and we build around it. Or in our case, we all just build north of it and then forget that city hall exists and it's the most southern point in the entire city. The thing is that the question is the game for you? And that's where the game actually, I would say, does have a limited amount of people because when we finish Santorini.
Right.
Or Downforce. When we finish Downforce, I could see in your face, you're like, I just set it up again. Let's go.
Yes,
let's go.
Yes.
Expansity just kind of leaves you like, oh, yeah, that was nice. And actually worth noting, I would not say it overstays its welcome. Right when you're like, okay, I think I'm about done with this game, you realize, oh, there's only like 2 tiles left in the sack. It's time. Oh, we are wrapping it up.
I feel like that last round, well, I don't know for everyone else, but at least in my experience, my last 3 rounds, I knew I couldn't do anything more, so I was just laying tiles. And it's like,
and I think that was a more first-time player thing. Because everybody's last round was useless, but because we had played all of our residentials and we couldn't cap in time, things like that. But before that, like, I would say everybody could do things up until the last round. I think you just had a weird way you'd messed yourself up there.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a good game.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any argument that Expansity is good. And if everything we say sounds appealing, go look it up. Like, look some pictures of it up. Because honestly, if the allure of its physical appearance draws you in,
I would definitely want it in my game library, just to have it and can play it with anybody. Really, I feel like I can say like, hey, like, check out this game.
And that's actually stuff. I made a note of that yesterday. I forgot to write it down. This game is an excellent ambassador of board games. That term's been used by many people before for other ones. Scythe has been looked at like that, where a lot of people who don't even like Scythe will say, like, I'm very glad it's there, because outsiders will look at it and say, like, oh, what is this? And they'll get drawn in. Isaiah and Thunder, the guys who started our Fenris campaign, they just saw it and they're like, well, explain it to us. And they played. And Expansity can do that. People will want to play Expansity when they see it. But it's also, because it doesn't have a lot of thrill, and the variety is not so much in what's happening, but kind of what order it happens.
Right.
I was trying to think of the right word. It can be dry. There were, people were engaged, but for the most part, our talking was, because a lot of our interaction during the game was just, okay.
Yeah, there's not, and like I said, I would screw people up, but then I wouldn't even know I was screwing them up, and like, oh, okay, well, seems like you're going to have trouble on your round, but that's about it. There wasn't ever like, oh, yeah, next turn I'm going to mess you up. The only real time where I would say genuine player interaction would happen was when a modifier came out. So Maul has hit the field. Maul gives +2 to all the stories on your commercial buildings, and then we watch it fill up with commercial buildings, because that's, here's some easy points. Right.
And that interaction was there. But outside of that, it's very, I don't want to say solitaire. It's not solitaire like maybe Welcome to or like Roll and Rights and things like that. But it's definitely this feeling of we're all kind of playing our own game at the same time. Let's hope it goes well.
Right.
And it's not going to appeal very much to maybe the more competitive people. I mean, granted, I say this as the guy who I've yet to lose this game, and it's usually, I would say that's probably the biggest blowout I've had in a while, and I felt bad.
Yeah, no, I saw you were stacking up the what was it, the gold cards? No, the objective cards.
The contract cards.
Yeah, the contract cards, and I think everyone was kind of going for that, because I was trying to stack those up too. But yeah, in one turn you just got 3 of them out, and you already had 3, and you had 6 of them, and you're like, oh yeah, he's gonna get those 12 points out of it.
And so it is for the most part, if you play with people of like equal skill level, or more often not just who have played as many times as you, it can give you this sense of closeness at times. But as we saw last night, it is very subject to runaway winners. And so it's very a Euro game where you more want to just grade your own progress. Yeah. You've got to make sure when you approach this game, you do understand this is not one everyone's going to laugh about and, oh my goodness. The funniest thing that's probably going to happen is that one time you mess somebody up, and the other time where you knock someone's building over and you all just laugh like, oh, King Kong visited. And of course, at the end of the game, you are required to like you have a Godzilla doll come through and just destroy the whole thing.
That said, how would you feel about a double XL version of Expansity?
Like a giant Gen Con version?
Yeah.
I honestly would like.
I
The
want
thing
like
is
big
that
pieces, like big.
the only
just,
issue
like,
with that is
heavy
that would
pieces.
take up a room with the tiles.
Yeah.
But it would be a massive amount of fun. That is a game that would
Yeah, because you could actually like walk in between the buildings and set them up and stuff.
Oh God.
Yeah. So breaking games. Hit us up because we have a warehouse full of space.
Yes, we
that
do.
Can definitely have like events of this caliber.
Oh,
so just hit us up. We'll have giant
Oh,
Expansity and giant Rise of Tribes with actual people as Tribes members. And there will be blood.
To Anime Con where you can just have the meeples be cosplayers. All right, now fight. Overall, this game is pretty interesting on thinking, light on excitement, pretty light on conflict, and you have to know if the people you're playing with want that. Definitely understand beforehand what you're getting yourself into, because it is an investment. It is not a cheap game, but it is super fun. And I definitely think if you're looking for that kind of Euro style 3D pretty game, and you're already a collector, but you're trying to find ways to get people who maybe are outside of the hobby to play along, I think Expansity could definitely serve that purpose. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But ooh, I'm so excited to talk about this. So Expansity, feel pretty good about, but spoiler, I really like Rise of Tribes. Let's
talk about Rise of Tribes.
Rise of Tribes somehow I feel has less variety than Expansity, but the little variety it has offers more excitement. So Rise of Tribes is a prehistoric civ builder. You control a tribe of wonderfully colored meeples, and you go around, and during your turn you will roll dice. Every one of the actions available to you, there are 4, have 3 dice on them. You will take the dice you roll, which have either a blank side, a moon side, or a sun side, and put them up online. So there's, let's say one of the actions is grow, increase your population. You will take your, let's say, sun dice and push the line of dice until that 4th one falls off. Then you look at the results, and, if there are 2 of the 3 dice left, or if there's 2 blanks, whatever. If there's 2 moons, your grow action's not going to be that great. It's in decline. But if there's 2 suns, then you get extra. So it's a mix of this like risk reward of I really want to do this action, but the way it's set up, I may not get a really good one. Or I rolled the perfect thing. Right. It has that wonderful amount of dice luck.
You're still gonna be able to do things. Like you're still gonna be able to make a move. It all depends on that luck of the dice.
Yes.
How good of a move you do on your turn.
And the great thing is because you're offered 4 different actions, maybe the thing you wanted to do, you'll either get to do a lesser version of it, a neutral, really good, and if you don't like what the lesser option is, perhaps maybe you can try one of those other things. So you can grow your population, you can gather resources, because of course you can. You gather resources from it, then you can move, where you can move your guys around, or you can, I think it's called learn. And that's where you have a little deck of cards that you have yourself. There's a lot of components to this game. Not overwhelming, but there are a significant amount. And everybody has a little deck of identical cards. And they have goals to achieve, like Expansity, or they have kind of discoveries you can make. And these are like little technologies you can build, like horse. Now your guys can move twice instead of once every move. Things like that. And all of these things eventually earn you points, because you can build villages and accomplish odd goals, things like that.
Right.
And the whole point of the game is to get to 15 points. It's a racing game in that sense.
Which is what I love about it.
Yes.
It's so quick to it. Like, it never lasts way too long.
No, it's like Expansity, it's the perfect idea of a medium game.
Right.
It's not... There's enough rules, enough complexity that you can't call it a light game, a little sit down and, we'll learn it in 5 minutes. But it's not so difficultly engaging that if somebody says, I'm willing to try this, I don't think they'll be overwhelmed.
Right.
And if they suffer the first couple turns, like still trying to get it, it will eventually click. But there's all sorts of weird ways the game messes with you, conflicts. there's no real fighting in the game. But if there's too many people on a tile, if there's more than 5, the simple combat is everybody that's on that tile will take one meeple off completely until only until only one's left, or I kind of forget the rule because we played right before we began and we never fought. Which was terrible for me. I lost by 1 point in the last turn. Well, it's always the last turn, but I was behind by 1 point. I thought I could win it, and I blew it, and I have to live with those.
Real close.
But I really feel like I feel like it was my fault because I chose not to attack you often. I didn't take a lot of risks. I got a little bit of reward, and it wasn't enough. And so I didn't deserve the win, and it's okay. And that's such a weird thing in that game because I want to talk about all the other stuff. There's so much to talk about with Rise. I've been really holding off on this one for a very long time.
It's really cool that we played a 2-player game because first time we played, it was a 4-player with I forgot their names.
Yeah.
But we played a 4-player game with them. It was a little bit slower, but this time we played it quicker, and it just happened really quick.
It was snappy.
Yeah, that's the word, snappy.
But also, we were talking about rolling those dice. If you roll doubles, or like 2 suns, 2 moons, 2 blanks, you draw events. And we're talking about the randomness. These are crazy wild.
Yep.
These cards, but they're tiles. It's weird. It's a deck of tiles you shuffle up, and you flip them over, and crazy stuff happens. A mammoth shows up, or a saber-toothed tiger.
Huh?
In our last game, a volcano.
I played
it so many times, the volcano has never shown up, and the volcano finally showed up.
And there's...
No, and it's crazy, all the strange stuff. And it's interesting because the more you play it, you'll see all these things. It's not an incredibly large deck, but like in the last game, you had an altar where you could sacrifice your own people for points. Like, that was crazy. And then there was one where a whole bunch of food was just available.
Right.
There wasn't anything that showed up on the board, but it was just, wow, that changes the game. Every time I played it, it's interesting that everything is provided identically. Like, everyone experiences the events. Everyone has the same deck of cards. They're shuffled, but they're the same. And it still feels like, even though some people deploy similar strategies, the game still feels very different. And that's where I feel Rise of Tribes actually succeeds past Expansity, is the variety's there, but I still feel like I've been playing the same game of Expansity, and as somebody who enjoys it, I say that. I still am playing, whereas Rise of Tribes, the last game we played, very different from that 4-player game we played. It was for me, I set up all these technologies, I didn't do any combat, whereas the other one, I was running around and punching people in the face like, I know I'm hurting myself, but I'm hurting you too.
Also, you get a little modifier for your tribe.
That's in the advanced module.
Oh, okay.
So the advanced modules, the great thing is the game offers this nice little vanilla version of the game. And then there's 3 modules they add. There's powers, where every tribe has a unique power.
Right.
Excellent and should be used without question. And then there's special tiles. And you can, basically the group decides, let's go 1, 2, maybe 3 tiles, and you shuffle them up and you draw 3 of them. Book tells you what they do. And we have the tar pits.
Right.
So if we had fought in the tar pits and there's only one person left, they get sucked into it. Like, oh, excellent, cool. And then the last one, which we just played today, we didn't even use, were the tribe elders, where you could, for like a resource, use some of the cool stuff the other team has, which you didn't have any discoveries until the end of the game, because the lead cards, they offer all these cool tools and stuff, and you didn't have any tools till the end. But I had some, and you never felt the need to use them.
Yeah, I won with those little tools.
Yeah, you did, because everything scores points. Okay, like I said, it's a lot to take in. The meeples are thick, they're big, they're vibrant. Whereas I like Expansity's muted choices for the aesthetic. Right. I feel Rise of Tribes is just bold. All the tribe colors on the board.
All the designs of the people in your tribe mat. This is like beautiful. I don't know. It's like
you were taking pictures. I saw of your character. Yeah. One little graphical thing that was weird for me is that your tribe board, it just tells you where all the things go. But on the front of it, there's your tribe elder who looks super nice and cool and nifty. But then on the back is you can choose that side or the other side, which tells you the order of all to play. And I was like, logical me says always leave that version up so I can just see what the order of my moves are.
Right.
But I wanted to leave the Elder up. It was such a petty little thing. And I guess like I kind of wanted my cake and to eat it too, and I didn't know I necessarily had to choose. Small, not really a diggity. It was a small. Yeah, both of us were flipping a couple times, and I was like, "This is so unnecessary. Let's just change the rules." But I want that pretty picture. And this game really proves the power of graphic design.
Oh yeah,
because I know I can bring this to the table, and people will join just for the cover. My bent up, messed up. Be careful when you travel with board games. Cover of Rise of Tribes. And they see it and they're like, wow, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Whereas I was talking about Stone Age earlier, a classic worker placement game.
Okay.
Does not grab the attention. Very classical Z-Man style.
Right.
Kind of like a Carcassonne.
I feel like when those covers don't look as appealing, people are going to think these are games that are going to take way too much time, too much effort to set up, to even get into. So I do think it helps. You know,
Rise of Tribes, I can tell you, there's a lot of people who have told me, like, that looks like a lot, but it looks really pretty. And I'm like, it's not really. And yes, it is. It's not that complicated. So the gameplay, I would say for the most part moves pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You have 2 dice. You roll them. You get to do 2 actions off of them. Neat. You try to optimize your move as best you can. And with 2-player, I feel it's okay. It's good. But I will say the last game we played was probably one of my least favorites. Not just because I lost. That's not like Expanse where I've yet to lose. But there was a point, like I said, you had the altar and you could have sacrificed people.
Right.
And you weren't using it. And I was like, God, if he uses that, I just can't catch up. I think in a 2-player game, that is something that could be broken. Whereas like 4-player, if we see you with that, we can go like dogpile on you.
Everyone
we can all
can
respond,
go at me,
and like we can politic. Mm-hmm. And I think also with 4 players, because if you remember last time we played with the mountain lion,
right?
Or everybody was like, okay, am I killing the mountain lion or are you killing it? Because if it goes around again, it's going to kill us more. Well, it's killing Nick right now. Like I know, I don't have the time to kill it, and it takes one of your turns to kill it. And so that was 2-player is not necessarily bad, but I would feel like it's really only good. I would never teach somebody the game with only 2 players.
We should bring it next game night if we go to it, and I would want to keep playing it like with more people because of that politicking.
That
stuff.
Politicking,
Because I feel like we kind of there was a point where it was like a chokehold. Like we were every tile was filled up. Every tile was filled up.
The game flourishes quickly,
and we were like, well, I'm not gonna go up there. And I had an objective card that told me like, oh, control all the forests. Mm-hmm. But you had all the forests, and I could have jumped over there, but I'm like, I'm not gonna risk that.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna risk doing that. But even then, it was really fun, and it wasn't a runaway win. We were just a point away.
This game, I've never had a runaway win. Mm-hmm. There was somebody who had made me clearly win, but it was more like we accidentally let this happen, and it's like the next turn.
And even the one we played first, everyone was really close.
We were all in the double digits.
Yep.
I think the farthest back was 11 out of the 15 points to win the game. This game is the reason I sold Civilization New Dawn. That's a game literally from the Civilization franchise, which works similarly. It's a bunch of tile placement, and it's a race to complete 3 objectives. And I feel like where that game's variety was there, this one, the variety is great, but just watching everyone adapt to each other and react, and the randomness of the dice is a nice level of controls, and there's only really 3 sides to them. I was super duper satisfied with it on that end. I would say the closest thing I have to an issue with it is the ability to kind of build up. People can hold on to resources, they can explode with stuff. And especially in a 2-player game, because I earned like 8 points in one turn, and I think you earned even more off that. But the technologies seem to serve more, the discoveries seem to serve more as point values
instead of
what they actually were intended for. And that was a little weird, because like I never used my horse or my ox or my baskets, but the points helped. And I guess like that just because they are worth more than maybe they should be.
Do you think something to fix that in a 2-player game is racing the point, like the goal point, like instead of 15, making it more points, and that way there's more space. Well, it would make the game longer, but there's more space for those technologies to be used to do their
my
thing.
Thought process.
Yeah,
I think maybe discoveries should maybe be worth less.
Worth less. There you go. Yeah.
Like 1 point less. So a lot of them are only worth 1. Some are worth 2.
Right.
Give those 1, and then the ones you have to use them for their practicality. I would be willing, because we did actually change one thing up. A lot of critics said one of the problems with the game was that because you can start off wherever you want, you could just go to the center of the field, and even though people could invade you and such like that, you have more opportunity. All we did in our last game was like, okay, Jair, you put my pieces out, and then I'll put your pieces out. Mm-hmm. And we both, of course, just chose the complete corners of which was fine because we quickly met each other, and then we had to expand in a weird way. I'm curious, though, one thing with that maybe, I said that was a good idea, but maybe if I'm threatened by you, or in a 4-player game, putting myself next to you. But in a 4-player game, it'd be like, well, Jair, I'm going to put you next to player 3. Just try to work with that now. Right. And I'm curious how that would work. It's a game I always want to experiment with because I've seen just about everything it has to offer. But even though I'm so used to baskets coming out really fast or pottery, and there are these discoveries that can really accelerate and build an engine for you that earn a bunch of points, I don't feel like I get tired of it. And when I'm done, I usually, even last game when I said it was the worst one I've played, it was still a lot of fun. Yeah. And I just kind of wanted to pick it up and get right back. Right, and okay, we're erasing that one. That one doesn't count. Let's go again. And I enjoyed that. And because Rise of Tribes has done a great job of giving me that medium level Civ builder without all the unnecessary complexities that Civ New Dawn did. Because I had to look. Civ New Dawn has you going back to the rulebook over and over and over. Rise of Tribes' biggest issue with rulebook is that there's some things need clarity. Some of the wording's off. It needs that little extra. And there's one time I think we just had to make a judgment call. That is a little bit of an issue, but it's more a glossary of what does card do. Not, okay, during this phase, does this thing count? Does this work? And I'm not a big fan of when I have to do that, especially when I'm trying to convince, because medium games are best used either with friends who maybe don't want to play Twilight Imperium or Scythe, or trying to get people more into board games. They played their Gateway, they played their Splendor, and you're like, okay, you've done a little bit, here's your Gateway, now let's get you in. Yeah,
we've talked about how it serves as a kind of like a warm-up board game if you're going to play something bigger like Scythe or something else. And you can play that first, and then it gets you going. It's short, it's straight to the point, and then you can get into the bigger stuff.
But people who are used to playing those lighter games, like Santorini or something like that, are going to feel more substantial when they finish this. Like, I actually played a real big board game, and that's and Rise of Tribes does everything I want it to, beautifully, both aesthetically and figuratively. It's beautiful in its execution, and I love that. I'm going to throw the gold star on it. I like Rise of Tribes in those accomplishments, and I'm really excited to get it to the table pretty much anytime I feel. I would say ideally I like playing with newer players, or at least teaching it. I've gotten to a point where I don't even play very often, like Pictomania. I can't tell you the last time I played Pictomania, but I will get 6 people to sit down and be like, all right, here's how we play, and I have just as much fun. So that's where I feel with Rise of Tribes. I'll be happy to teach it to people and get it out to players, because this is a game I think that game stores should be like stocking and getting on shelves, because this is excellent. Whereas maybe games like Stone Age and Civ have a little more complexity unnecessarily at this point. I think they all accomplish the same goals, and Rise of Tribes does it the most streamlined. Nice. What I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm excited to keep playing this game. But yeah, cool.
Good.
Neat.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent stuff. Oh, It's so good to be back, and it's so good for tea time.
Tea time.
Ever since I told you I love that, you just get more and more try hard, and you know what? I love it even more. It's great.
This tea, though,
yes,
is something else.
It is.
So I don't know what it is.
You don't know what it is.
But it's delicious. And now, this is what I think butterbeer from Harry Potter tastes like if it was non-alcoholic.
Okay, all right.
And I've never had butterbeer, but this is what I always imagine it tastes. It has like a buttery flavor, kind of like butterscotch, but without like the sweetness, but that like...
You're wrong, but you're right. You're wrong, but you're right, and I like where you're going with it. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's really hot right now, so... No, it's still there. Yeah, that buttery taste is still there, and I love it. But I'm not sure what it might be. You said to take a whiff of it, but my nose is terrible.
I honestly, now that you say butter, I smell like butter. Like that, like when you melt butter smell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no, I definitely get that sensation.
So let's see what
would you name this beer?
Oh, this beer?
Not this beer. What would you name this tea?
Butter tea.
Butter tea.
Butter tea. Yeah.
That sounds awful.
It does. Well, actually, so hear me out. Hear me out. There's actually this weird thing. I don't remember what it's called, but it's coffee. Well, they actually do it with coffee, or they do it with tea, and it's either tea with like coconut oil and butter.
Mm-hmm.
You mix it all up, and it's supposed to be like kind of like a keto diet or like a paleo diet.
I have heard of that.
It gets all the fat that you need for the day, and then you can just go on.
But I want to put my fat in my food. That's like, so you don't have to worry about eating your fats.
That's why you keep it the whole day, and you dunk the food in the
you just dunk your stick
tea.
of butter in there. Like, oh man. So butter tea.
Butter tea, yeah.
Okay.
So what do we have?
This. It's a little sweet, right? It's nutcracker sweet. This is the Weinman Classic. Last year for Christmas, I got my dad a 6-pack of this because it's festive, it's holiday. I actually have to go back to Sprouts at some point and try and grab some more of this before it goes off the market. It is holiday tea, a black tea, which contains caffeine, so that's why you feel awake right now. But let's look at what the blend master has to say. This blend features rich black tea made more festive with the flavor of creamy, nutty vanilla and a pinch of cinnamon. A delectable alternative to sweet treats, the delightful tea captures the magic of Tchaikovsky's The Nutcracker.
Oh, wow.
The ballet that's been synonymous with this holiday cheer for more than 100 years.
Wow. I'm going to tell you why it's so on spot that it's a nutcracker. What is it? Sweet, nutcracker sweet. It's a little story. I went to watch the Nutcracker when I was a kid. Like live performance. We were like in 3rd grade. We were very obnoxious, and we did not care for a 2-hour-long musical dance thing. We did not care for it, even though it was really flashy and lights. But whatever. Halfway through it, there's this scene where one of the rat people shoots off a cannon. The whole play, it's at an even like volume of like music and people dancing and whatnot. Up until that point where the rat just fires that cannon, and it's the loudest thing in the world. And all these kids that are like either sleeping or playing Pokemon just jump up, scream. You could hear some cries because there were definitely like first graders in there that had never been exposed to such a sound. Wake us up. And this is what this is doing right to me right now. So Nutcracker Sweet, this goes all the way to the top.
With the pumpkin?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man.
Yes, sir. I'm loving that butter.
So for me, I was wrong. I think kind of like the butter, like right and wrong at the same time.
Heck yeah.
So, so I taste gingerbread, but with that cinnamon and that vanilla, like I don't feel crazy.
Right.
Like I just made that up.
It's very subtle.
But it definitely just every evergreen taste that comes with the holidays, like that sweetness, that vanilla. I love this tea, but then again, it also has the family connection because my dad loves it. I've just come to love it as well.
Nice.
But really, I would say aside from peppermint tea, this and peppermint are my favorite. But I'm the Prince of Christmas, and that's just how we roll. It's Christmas time.
It's Christmas. What do you usually do in Christmas?
You play board games with your family. Everyone does it. Everyone does. That's the reality I've chosen, and no one can tell me I'm wrong.
And when you're done, you stuff them down a stocking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the other way around. You stuff them down, and they open, and like, oh, we better play it because my brother
you stuff
it
until next Christmas, and you don't play it until next Christmas.
Oh man, this caffeine's getting to us. But last week I talked about Love Letter.
Okay.
And you played Love Letter?
No, we haven't. You talked to me about it.
Well, because every time I get it, I end up giving it to people.
Right.
It's cheap and awesome. And that's what the Stocking Stuffer special is about, is I want to offer games that not only are cheap and affordable, but can definitely be played with the family immediately as soon as the paper is unwrapped and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so today, because we're doing this bi-weekly thing at the moment, maybe they'll pick up, but I want to give you two of them. First off, we have The Mind. Tell us about The Mind.
This mind-blowing game, huh?
No.
See that? No. Now, this is something that you were talking about a lot once it came out. You were hyping it up a lot with our coworkers, and you actually played it before I had got a chance to with everyone at the escape room. But once we played it, it was like this, I don't know, it makes you hate yourself. And I'm explaining the feelings of it before I get into the gameplay itself, so people understand. But yeah, it's a game that makes you hate yourself and makes hate everyone around you, but at the same time makes you want to keep playing because you actually want to do it right. But so how this works is you have a deck of cards that goes from 1 to 100. There's no repeats, there's no copies of any number, it's just 100 cards, 1 through 100. And you start up with 3 lives. Everyone gets the amount of cards of the level you're in. It goes from level 1 all the way to level either
12 if it's a 2-player.
If it's a 2-player, depending on the player count, you get to a certain level. The goal is to get all the way to the last level and beat it. But on the first level, it's level 1, so everyone gets 1 card from the deck. And it's all shuffled up, right?
Yeah, you shuffle up the deck.
Up, you just get those cards out. You don't know. Only the player knows the card. You look at the card, and you see the number, and you put your hand on the table or whatever surface you're playing, and you make a vow to not speak at all. No speaking at all. No communication whatsoever. Because what you're going to do is all the players are going to play the cards in ascending order without telling other people what cards they got. So, you have 3 cards. Let's say someone has a number 5, someone has a number 20, and someone has a number 21. And then the person that has the number 5 card goes, well,
they mime that there's
they mime that, yes, like mine. I'm gonna play it. And you can like shake your head, you can like move around, but you can never.
As long as you don't explicitly telegraph what you have, he puts up like 5 fingers up. Like
right.
You can't do that.
You can't do that.
But he makes it very clear, like, hey guys, mine's really low. I want to go. I'm vocalizing all the miming. Right. It's like mine's really low. I want to go first. Does anybody else contest with this? Kind of a look.
Yes.
And nobody does.
There's a lot of looking around and trusting and mind reading and trusting that you have the 1 card and you play it. The 5 is on the board. And
excellent. Everyone's
like, yes. But now there's a 20 and then a 21. And they don't know what cards they got. Ooh. So they're like those other 2 players, and we're doing this hypothetical 3-player game. But yeah, those other 2 players are looking at each other.
Mine's pretty close.
Mine's pretty close.
Oh, but is yours closer? Are you sure? Oh,
but all of this without saying a single word.
And how you vocalize it with your body is the entire allure of the game.
Now, you can do a couple of things in this situation. Either someone, like the one with the 20, plays it, and it's fantastic.
Yay!
And the next person plays the 21, and you're good. You're good to go. You go into the next round. Or, if you're not sure, you have a ninja star.
Yes.
It's a card. It's kind of like your save card. If you agree with everyone else, everyone raises their hands. If you agree with everyone else, you can play the Ninja Star, and then you play the lowest card you
so
have.
by raising your hands, you all communicate. That's the one way you can truly communicate and say, I want to use a Ninja Star.
Right.
If everyone does it, then you all agree, and you all clearly discard your lowest number. So if we have like 4 cards in our hand, because again, the level is the size of your hand is dependent on what level it is. Level 4, you have 4 cards, and no one's laying down a card early on. You're like, who has the lowest card?
Right.
Maybe all the single digits are not drawn, or
now.
Like that.
So if it's on level 1 and people decide to use it, I mean, I wouldn't expect to use it on level 1, but if people use it on level 1, you're just playing those cards and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Basically.
But imagine, though, you have 4 cards in your hand and you all use the Ninja Star, and someone discards a 91 out of 100. That means that person has only 92 and above of the other 3 cards.
Right.
And that offers that amazing communication, but you only get so many of them, and you only get so many lives. Never beat this game. I have played this game dozens of times. Of this year I would say it's my most played game. Still haven't won.
Yeah, I think this game is the one that you start playing, you finish it up because you didn't win, and you want to keep going because you want to make it work. But when you fail, so you got 3 lives, and those go quick. Like once someone messes up, that lives is out. You do have the chance, once you're going up the levels, you go level 3. I don't really know what levels things happen.
Yeah,
but in one level, in one level, if you beat it, you get an extra Ninja Star.
Yep.
In another level, you get an extra life. So those help, and
the game will give you a little bit of an IV drip of hope as you go along.
That's a great way to put it.
You're talking about the weird thing with this game, though, is how we both perceive the difficulty. You talk about how much it makes you hate yourself, and man, I'm coming from the to quote Ricky from Trailer Park Boys. I'm not a pessimist. I'm an optometrist, and I would say when I look at this, I love this opportunity to communicate and bond with people in such an odd way. For me, when I play it. I love teaching it because everyone gives you the weird eye. It's like Resistance. I tell you, it all goes the same way every time you play. Mind kind of does the same. You explain to people, okay, now we can't talk. Oh, what? So, can we do... No, you can't do that. We can communicate without communicating. What? And they're just like, this is... And I've been hyping it up, so they just give me this look like, what are you getting at? And it happened, we played with Mariah and Josh, and they're like, huh? Okay.
But once
and then after 1 or 2 rounds, there's Mariah like,
this close.
I'm really close. I'm not that she's making all these weird hand gestures, and it's somebody who's just typically not very expressive. She's very she keeps it close to the chest. She's sitting there and she's just become this animated mime trying to use her hand as some sort of lever of between 1 and 100 without telegraphing clearly, and you're watching her just dissolve into this mess of anxiety and laughter. And that's what you do in the mind is just this body communication to do your best to circumvent the rules without breaking it, just try to get around it. And that's the whole the magic for me is all that. And and it's a cooperative game. We're all going to win or we're all going to lose. And the way I describe it to everyone is, remember in Flashpoint, when we won and we high-fived and we felt great when we won. In Pandemic, when you win with the last card, because if you have to draw one more card, you're going to lose, and you figure out, wait, we can do this. If you go here and you go here, I can do this, and we can win. And those moments are excellent. And you all celebrate and you high-five. The mind gives that several times in one game. And it's 20 minutes long. It's not even a full game. It's a tiny little game. And it constantly just, other games like Rise of Tribes that I just gushed about ridiculously, give you, I was talking about the IV drip, a little bit of endorphins over and over and over. This one just kind of throws giant pipe bombs of happiness at you, oh, the high fives and the groans, you had the 20 and you play it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you did. Or when we blow it, when there's just a 2-point difference, somebody's like, okay, I clearly have the lowest card. Here's a 64. oh no, I had a
62.
62, we lose a life, and everybody groans, but we all fully understand, like, there was no way we could have figured that out without communication. And so, there's a lot of luck involved that is yet to work in my favor.
Right.
There's a lot of
groans.
What I
feel, and I don't know if this is negative or positive, because it could go a lot of different ways, but what I'm thinking is, if you play this game with the same people over and over again, I feel like you start developing your own language. Like, we played 2 rounds, and we were, using our hands to, like, kind of show how high or how low the card was from the card that was played. And if you play with the same people, I think those are going to become a little bit more obvious, and you're going to get it. Yeah. But there's still a lot of risk.
But you also saw, like, let me put it this way.
Thinking
in a group
about
I played repeatedly, I've never done this poorly with a group that I did last night. Now, we can blame the alcohol, but I don't think it had anything to do with that. The great thing with this game is that it offers, it does feel team building. Whether or not it's psychosomatic, just because the whole point is to get on one level, or if it actually does, the mind, in repeated plays, I do notice people. I think a great example is early on when we started playing, you and Mariah wouldn't look at each other. You'd just look at me, the guy who runs the game and everything. And I'm like, I'm out of cards. Guys, I can't contribute to this. Look at each other. Communicate. And then you guys did this magical thing where you wouldn't look at each other, but you'd like I don't even notice you kind of put your hands in front of each other like, okay, you go. Yeah. And you wouldn't look at each other. You'd look at your own cards and get nervous, but you'd like do this communication thing. And it creates idioms. And every time I play, I steal things from other people.
Right.
There's the walk across where I will take a card and I will just mosey it like, it's kind of close, but if you want to interrupt me and somebody, as soon as somebody grabs a card, my hand goes back like, oh.
So instead of thinking it as a negative thing, as in breaking the game, I think it's just getting good at it.
Yeah.
It's just, the more you play,
it's getting it good with your group.
Exactly. But that's the other thing. If you play with people that have never played it before, that's a whole other exciting thing, because it's seeing how these people that don't know how to do it get to do it. And by the end of it, probably when you're in level 7, people are going to be out there trying their hardest to make sure everything works out with all the cards being set up correctly.
I have 2 very unimportant negatives to the game. One, I've had one time I had a bad time blindness.
Okay.
It was with some boring guy. I thought I could get him to wake up and like, hey, don't be a boring guy. And we're at a science convention, and I was like, here's the mind. And I was like, okay, so I can't like telegraph what my cards are. And he just tries to break it. So he'd take his cards, and then he'd set them in piles of 10. So he's not explicitly telling me, oh, that's a 10. Right. But hey, look, he has 5 decks. And like, and he would make spaces, and I was like, this is just not fun. And then we still lost. We still blew it. Right. I was like, don't do that. Right. It's not cool. And that's the only person who's thought to do that. Not that I'm clever, but I'm not trying to have fun. And then I was like, okay, goodbye. And so, like I said, that was one person who I didn't know, and it was terrible. And everyone else, the biggest issue I have with the game is I want to talk about it, and I want to tell people idioms I've had in the past. Like right now, I don't mind them telling because it's the podcast. But when I'm playing a game, I don't want to tell people, here's what I do. Because then I'm telling them. And so I can't really talk about my past experiences because I want people to bring in their own organic feelings. Because I tried once and then people started doing the things I said. And I was like, no, I didn't want this. And that's so like, that's not even remotely important to me. Like, that's just an odd thing I've noticed. I can't talk about my previous experience to other people. Just say, trust me, we're going to have fun. Outside of that, like, we have Rising Sun still to play, Rise of Tribes, Root, and tons of really exciting games that we're going to be looking as the year ends. This is easily one of my contenders for the Game of the Year 2018. I'm very curious to see where our list ends up. But this is really looking up there. So if it's not obvious already, this is getting my star.
This is kind of like a,
easy.
It's getting my star too, dude. It's getting my star too. Yeah, I got you a little worried because we were discussing it earlier, but it is getting my star. And for this fact, this is a people tester. I want to bring this to anyone I meet and play with them so I can test how these people react to this game, and then I can, judge them.
And, well,
like,
see, that's the thing is some people hate it on the theme. Like, is it even really a game, or is it like an experiment or an experience?
Right.
Like, I don't care. I'm having a blast.
So Josh said it best. It's silent Uno.
It is. It's this silent Uno, but cooperative.
Cooperative silent Uno, and I'm gonna write that down because that's gonna be like the thing we describe. Well, I describe it.
Let me describe how much of an impact this game has. I brought it home from Gen Con. I didn't realize how early Gen Con's release was for it, so I brought it in and I played it a bunch. I think I'm the only person at Eton with a copy. They got 3 copies. They sold the same day.
Nice.
They currently have over 10 people waiting for it to be restocked so they can reorder it. And I was just like, I don't know what those 3 people have done with theirs, but I know that everybody I've played it with has at least considered buying this. So if you have somebody you're looking to buy board games for, or you're looking to get involved, The Mind, excellent. Super recommended, and I'm so happy you got that star on there. I was like, ooh.
Dungeon Boys Double Star Boogaloo.
Yeah. Let's just segue the positivity over here to Cockroach Poker.
Cockroach Poker.
Okay, now I'm going to say right now, The Mind can be played by almost anyone.
Right.
Like, if you have a curmudgeon, a Scrooge, whatever, they weren't going to like whatever you're going to throw out there, so maybe not them. But I will say right off the bat, Cockroach Poker is not necessarily for everyone. It's got to be for people who can laugh and enjoy themselves and not mind losing.
Right.
The hook of Cockroach Poker is that there's no winner, but there's one loser. There's a deck of cards, and the deck has all sorts of nasty things. Stink bugs and flies and bats and cockroaches and rats. And there's rats. And there's all sorts of terrible things, and you have a whole hand of them. During your turn, if it's your turn to start the game off, you're going to take one of your cards. Let's say I have a rat. And I'm just going to slide it over to Jair and tell him, hey, this is a cockroach. Now, that's a lie. It's a lie. But he doesn't know that.
Yeah.
He has 2 options. He can call my bluff and say, that's not a cockroach.
That's a stinking rat.
He doesn't have to tell me you don't have to tell me.
Right.
But you just have to say whether or not you agree it's a cockroach or not. And if he's right, let's say he says it is a cockroach. Well, it's not. It's a rat. Then he keeps the rat. If he says it's not a cockroach and it's not a cockroach, then I get it. When he's right, I get the card. If he's wrong, he keeps the card.
Right.
And the loser is whoever ends up with 4 of the same thing. So you have 1 rat. You are 3 rats away from losing if that happens.
Right.
However, there's a second option. Other than calling them out, he could look at the card. So he can look at it and say, oh, that's a rat. Interesting. And he can pass it to someone else and say whatever he wants.
Right.
You can say, hey, it's actually a rat. Or, it is a cockroach.
Right. So the bluffs stack up.
Oh, the bluffs, they stack. And it gets nasty and mean. So so follow the math on this, because we did this a couple times and it was really dirty. There would be somebody with 3 scorpions.
Right.
Let's say Mariah has 3 scorpions. And I pass a card to Josh, and I say, hey, this is a scorpion. And he looks at it, and then he passes it to Jair, and he says, hey, this is a scorpion. And Jair looks at it, and it's a bat. It's not a scorpion at all. But he looks over at Mariah, the only person left.
With 3 bats.
With 3 bats. Or no, she has 3 scorpions. And he goes, hey, don't worry. It's a bat. Now, everyone else has said scorpion. She's the last person. That means if you're the last person, everybody else has seen the card. You can't pass it on. You have to call the bluff. And you can get bullied.
Yep.
And so she's bullied in this corner like, oh my God, everyone else said it's scorpion. And if it is a scorpion, and I don't say that if I'm wrong and it's a scorpion, I lose the game. But if I'm wrong, it's just another card I have to take on. And it's this pressure. So the game, if you can't
paranoia
tell...
and
God.
Just mistrust and looking like, who is lying?
And there were so many times people thought they were brave. Like, this is a cockroach. It's not a cockroach. And then it totally is. And just the reads or lack thereof were nothing short of just spectacularly hilarious. And this game caused so much laughter. But the trick of it is you need to be able to accept fun bullying.
Right.
Because if you have 3 of one thing, chances are people are going to start stacking on you. They're going to start picking on you because they just need you to lose and they win. And you need to be okay with that. if you're someone who's like, this isn't fair, oh no, why? Oh, and that's not necessarily a fault. It's good to identify that about yourself. And I can be that person inside. But with a game like this, it's so small. Like, the first game I lost. You guys dogpiled all the bats on me. And I could not handle it. And I lost. But it's so fast, and it's just so lighthearted in its bullying that you just move on. So this is one, for me, I would say, if your family's cool with that, and they can laugh, it's great.
Right.
But definitely make sure they're the kind of people, because if they can't handle that, if someone starts getting picked on, they get sour about it, maybe not.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Ugh.
Yeah, like, I think the cool part of it is it's a bluffing game, but it's at its core simplistic party type of game. So like, what's the max amount of players for this? 6. We played it with 4. I was ready to add two more people to it, because I just wanted to mess up with more people.
I just want to see that card sliding around
everywhere, and people trying to keep track of what people said, and
because the only one you have to be honest about is what the last person said.
Right.
That's it. Everybody else can bluff.
The thing is, we were, like I've mentioned the whole podcast, we were a little tipsy. So there were moments where I would look at the card and say something, and halfway through everyone bluffing, I would forget what the card was. And it's like, wait, what did I say? And then the person would ask, like, what did you say? I'm like, I don't have to say.
No, there was one point I lied. Because I knew I could get Mariah. I was like, oh no, I don't actually remember what I said. I know she remembered what I said, and it worked out. But it was the thing with, like, the big appeal for me when I play games like poker, because it's called cockroach poker, is the bluff.
Right.
I'm going to up my ante. But then that's only a slice of poker.
Right.
And that's my issue with the game, is that, the rest is card counting and figures and statistics. And, that's for some people. For me, a game that long, I'm going to want some meeples. I'm going to want some cavemen. I want some dice. I want some throws. This is just the bluffing part. And it's just... Oh.
I've learned poker 3 times, and I've forgotten poker 3 times, and I do not know how to play it. And I played video games where, like, there's a poker game in the story, and it makes you play it, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna keep pressing buttons until something happens, and I just it's something that doesn't fit in my head. But once I learn it, it's like, oh yeah, I know this. And then I just forget and never play it again.
No.
And then cockroach poker comes around, and it's like, yeah, who needs poker?
Yeah, who needs poker? This is just bluffing. It's
when you got gross bugs.
Yeah, you got gross bugs. And the art's actually really cute.
Yeah.
It's really cute, but it's just, it mixes up. We also have the Royal Edition.
Oh,
You can get regular cockroach poker. I would recommend getting the Royal one, because if you can take the Royals out and just play regular cockroach poker. But if you feel they can handle just the ever so slight amount of girth that Cockroach Poker Royal offers, then it's going to be great. Every species, there's 7 species, each one of them has a king, a royal. And so if you have that one, it has a big old dopey crown drawn on it. And so I have the royal cockroach. So I can look at you and I say, it's a cockroach. Or I could say, it's a royal. If whoever ends up taking the royal card, there's a penalty stack in the middle of 7 cards. Let's say he calls my bluff. He says, yeah, that is a royal. He flips it over and there's the crown, so I get the card.
Right.
I goofed. I also have to take 1 card from the penalty area.
Oh yeah, there's a penalty set up.
And so
how many
I got
cards
2
are in
cards.
the penalty?
7. 1 for each one of the royals.
Right.
But even on the rare occasion, there's a royal in the penalty area. When you take it, you take another card. So you went from like, I gained 1 card to I gained 2 or 3, maybe 4. It's crazy. And then there's some weird wild card things that do some interesting one that, no matter what the person says, they're always wrong. There's one that no matter what they say, they're always right. So you just have to guess, and those ones are wonky, and I would play those with gamers.
It's interesting that these 2 games we're talking about, the Mine and Cockroach Poker, at least with Cockroach Poker with a Royal add-on, it feels kind of like those wild cards in Uno.
Yeah.
So they both kind of share that Uno feel of messing people up.
And well, the thing is, the reason is because these are for the exact same place as Uno.
Right.
I talk about my collection. It's currently over 50 games, but I try to keep it to a condensed area because I just don't have room. Currently, I have games just squeezed into my shelf, and so I don't like redundancy. I traded in Civ New Dawn to get myself Rise of Tribes. That was an upgrade for me. If I had Uno, both of these games would have thrown it right out. But at the same time, whereas one offers this synchronizing cooperative experience, the other one's this dirty, nasty bluffing. And they themselves don't overlap each other, but they both completely eliminate games like Uno, Skip-Bo, Phase 10. If you have those card games you like to play with the family, I would genuinely say both of these are better than most of those. Once again, Cockroach Poker getting my star.
Getting my star too, dude. Oh, the double.
Oh, double star trouble. Oh, man.
I'm ready to get these games, dude.
Cracker Lock-In Poker actually is a series. I forget what the series is called. It's pretty much like the Ugly Bug
The Cockroach
series.
Saga.
Kind of. But there's... and so it's called Cockroach Poker. For a few bucks more, you can actually get the German version. I just recommend it because Cockroach is Kakerlaken. So everyone's like, okay, what are we playing? How about we play Kakerlaken Poker? And I love that. But there's also Mogul Mott, which I believe is Moth Motel. I could be wrong on that. Nice. Then there's Kakerlaken Soup and Kakerlaken Salat. I have heard that Cockroach Salad and Cockroach Soup are very similar, but Shut Up and Sit Down just did a review of Cockroach Soup.
Okay.
And they said it's one of the funniest games they've played in years. And I was just... You get to make weird sounds and yum. And I was just like, yes, I want to play this. It's so dumb and silly. And it's another bullying game, but even the people who were bullied were walking away like, oh, I want to buy this. And so the reaction you had here...
I really want these games in my shelf. I want to play the Mind with my housemate.
Yes.
We talk so much, dude. We barely see each other, but when we see each other, we're just telling each other all the crazy stuff that's been going on, and we keep going and going and going. And I would like to play this game with her just to see how we can communicate.
Do me a favor
without talking.
Bring it next week, and you can actually take it with you.
All right.
Because it is a game. The downside, there's one big downside in both these games, and it's for people like me. Their boxes are so nice and cheap. Well, they're made as not cheap, but they're financially sound. They made them the perfect size. That if you try to sleeve them for protection, they don't fit in the box, and so you need to find another box, and that kills me.
Yeah,
it kills me because I tweeted Pandasaurus saying, "Hey, what if you made a deck box for the Mind, like a custom one, because people would buy it?" And they're like, "That's a great idea." But we're not an accessory company. I'm like, I bought Dinosaur Island. The worst you could do is invest thousands of dollars to make my toy for me. And that comes in Friday, Dinosaur Island. So expect a review of that soon. For those who don't know, think Vaporwave, Jurassic Park. Worker placement. So. Nice. So The Mind, Cracker, Lock-In Poker.
Before we get into Kids on Bikes, I was going to ask you, not a question, but just mentioning this to you if you knew, and I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
I read that the people that did Spectre Ops are making a Metal Gear game.
Oh, I have not heard of that.
Yeah, I read that in the airport on my way from New York.
Ooh.
I was just browsing Reddit, and I saw that the Spectre Ops people are going to make a Metal Gear game.
That makes sense. We need to play Spectre Ops.
Yeah.
There's a second one which has another map. It has some powers. I guess it's just more.
Yeah.
And it's also a standalone.
Like, what you told me about Spectre Ops, I'm just expecting for them to just reskin Spectre Ops with Metal Gear, but maybe. It would be awesome if they did something cool with it. When we sit down and play, if you remind me, we could definitely get that down maybe this week or something. Yeah. Spectre Ops. We're going to be working together, so. That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. Okay. Now, technically the show's kind of over. But the Kids on Bikes thing I talked about, we're going to bring that back because that was a really interesting experience. First thing I ever dungeon mastered on because it's something I'm a control freak.
Everyone who plays board games knows I am like, here, let me take all your pieces for you that you need to spend. It's awful. It's a terrible toxic habit I'm trying to bleed myself out of. So the idea of being a DM where I'm just in charge is great. Except with kids on bikes. Not in a bad way, just not what you expect. If you know anything about tabletop RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons or Shadowrun or Pathfinder, the typical way it works, Jair over here has created a character through a whole complicated process that we have done of rolling dice and figuring out his class and all these things. And then I come up with a wonderful story for him. And he will make some decisions. Usually he will derail the story hard, and I have to adapt to that. Maybe slowly guide him back into my story. Usually, they want to find out where I'm going with this. That's how it works. Cool. Kids on Bikes does not quite work that way. So, first off, the character creation in this game is a blast. Because no one should try too hard in it. The game gives you all the options if you want to build from the ground up. But in the back of the book, first of all, the book is tiny. It is this tiny little paperback book, and it gives you everything the characters need to know. It gives you everything the GM needs to know. And you're like, how could that possibly be it? And we'll get to that. But in the appendix area where you look at all the stats and stuff, they give you pre-made characters. You should always choose a pre-made character in this game because all they are tropes. So I had our manager Zoe and my coworker Adrian. I say mine, ours. And I was like, we have a lot of extra time today. Let's try and learn this. And instead of them even getting to choose their trope, I just said there are 16 different ones. Choose number 1 through 16. Adrian ended up as a plastic beauty. The Sweet 16 Debbie. I always like to think of Debbie from the Oblongs. And so he was one of those. And Zoe ended up being a scout because that's just her destiny. She's worked with Boy Scouts a lot and stuff. Right. So when we got that, I'm like, of course you did. Your stats come out, and they come out in weird increments. It's not like you get a 1, 2, or 3 or divide up the numbers. If you know anything, again, about tabletop RPGs, is that they abuse all the different kinds of dice there are. There's D20s. The D stands for how many sides. So D20s, D6 is a typical dice, a D4. And what you do is you assign to each one of your stats, there's fight, flight, grit, brains, charm, things like that. And depending on who you are, the better you are at it, the bigger dice you use. Okay. Your best stat, everyone has a best stat, and that's their D20. Whereas, the one you're really bad at, your worst one is a D4. And so when you need to do something that needs a check, you need to roll for something, I will tell you, okay, so you're the beauty queen, and you're going to try to intimidate the police. That's going to involve grit. You have a D4, and if you're going to try to intimidate them, you're going to need to roll a 7. How do you do that? If you roll the max number on a 4, it's a 4, you get to roll again. Okay. But that's a very reasonable thing. Okay. And so the best thing is, like in most games with these rolling things, failing is fun. Right. So if you goof, it's like, well, I rolled a 1, so what happens? Well, the police laugh at your face as you stumble over and break your nose. That's a common thing in my game is I love to break people's noses because in RPG world, nothing is more useless than your nose. I'm going to break it if you mess up a roll. Spoiler, Zoe ended up with a busted nose and a twisted ankle. And so, really cool stats. And then depending on if you're a child, teenager, or adult, you get different bonuses or whatever. Then they get extra little gifts and stuff, which the pre-cons say, hey, if you're a beauty queen, maybe you like these things. Maybe these are your faults. And then it gets really personal. So the idea is in Kids on Bikes is that it's very much based off Stranger Things. You take a small town, and the game doesn't give you explicit number, but basically you need to be able to travel from one end of the town to the other on your bike. So that way kids can get there, anybody can do it. So you do that. But that also means that this is a very close town. Everyone knows each other. To do that, Adrian and Zoe both decided they were teenagers. Cool. And then they roll a D20. And they decide they know each other. You can choose otherwise, like if you're an outsider. Right. But there's a different set of questions. And then there's questions. How do you guys related to? How are we related to each other? Well, they decided that their parents were all like childhood sweethearts, and they were all besties all through high school, stayed in town, and then when their older brothers, were best friends, they were expected to be best friends, and they don't get along at all. Zoe is the wholesome, like, I want everybody to be who they are. And then there's Adrian, who's like, no, that's not cool. And it was this wonder. And the thing is they built that themselves.
Right.
We sat there and we just discussed relationships.
That's awesome.
And they were like, let's build this together. The character creation is really easy for people because it's really fun to just make the soap opera. Then we roll D20s, and there's 20 questions. And so you're positive about each other. So it's like, what could this person... what's the greatest thing you'd do to this person? They ask these hard questions, like emotional questions, like, what made you realize you love this person, platonically or romantically? And they would sit there like, okay, this is me. Then you have to roll a negative one. How have they betrayed you? Like, ooh. and all of a sudden, it's really simple. Whereas Dungeons & Dragons can spend hours creating your character, the suggested medium weight on this thing is just here.
Yeah,
these questions about relationships.
Right.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Then the story begins.
Ooh.
We all together build the world. Zoe starts, and I say, what town are we in? Wyoming. Or a town in Wyoming. Okay. And... Adrian, what is our town best known for? Mining. Okay, what are they famous for? A pie eating contest. What are they infamous for? A mysterious disappearance. And then what's our high school team mascot? A muskrat. And all of a sudden here we have a fully fledged city.
Town. Wow.
Okay, cool. I can work with that. All right. And so now, because the game master actually he can have a basic idea of the things he may want to happen.
Right.
But he more has to listen to what has been said and built by the other people. At this point, this is where Kids on Bikes kind of gets off the training wheels and becomes whatever you want it to be. At this point, the game master can just come up with a story, blah, blah, blah. But the way the game wants it to be played, to my understanding, I'm a little rough on it, but we all tell the story. So I tell Zoe, okay, I mentioned that she saw lights out on the mountain. There's a big mountain. She saw very distinct lights out there. Adrian's parents, run the steel mill or something like that.
Okay.
And the steel mill, she learned today at lunch, just randomly closed. And so I was like, okay, go. Okay. We start in fall during lunchtime, and the idea is they tell the story. They come up with things.
Right.
You can throw, as the game master, you throw wrenches into it. You can say, well, because here was the thing. So we go, and Adrian's first reaction is like, oh, my family's kind of money, and we're about to lose all of our money if the place just closed.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah. And all the popular kids are now laughing at you. Oh, well, then I run into the bathroom and I'm just crying my eyes out. It's terrible. I'm trying to apply makeup.
Oh, dude, I'm so ready to play this.
And then I'm just like, yes, but you. And then no, and Zoe's like, yes, but then while you're in the bathroom, you hear some snickers and then some people scurrying off. And he's like, oh no! But what she said is as much as legitimate as what I say.
Right.
And then we go. The principal is calling Adrian in and was like, but then it's also calling in Zoe. And it's like, oh, your parents, or I don't know if you heard the news about the mill. Yeah. And things started to stagnate.
Right.
And when it stagnates, I feel it's anybody's job, but especially the game master's job, to be like, but also your parents are missing. And it was like, oh, and Zoe's like, yes, because she was about to say that, and it was
right.
And so it became this huge, massive ordeal. And so Adrian just runs home on her bike or bikes home as fast as she can. And Zoe tried to catch up, and so we did a flight check. And she rolled a 1, and that's where she fell and broke her nose. And while she was really close, and she got a little bit of blood on Adrian's dress, just to ensure that if she tried to stay, she'd be further humiliated. I was like, yeah. And so you can kind of poke them into directions. And this is where our game started to flounder a little bit.
Okay.
Because first-time players, especially people who are familiar with D&D and stuff, will experience this discomfort of freedom. Because then I'm like, okay, so what do you do? What happens? So Adrian's like, I'm biking home. And I was like, all right. And what happens along the way? Like, don't you tell me what happened? You can just see on their face, like, but what happens? And the thing is I was a little unclear in the book because I follow the Reddit and some people talked about it in a way. It sounds like every person has pretty much control of all the characters.
Right.
So Zoe could say, hey, Adrian does this.
Right.
And as long as Adrian's cool with it, you can't force a person to do what they don't want to do. But at that point, then I was like, well, you come home and there's black sedans everywhere. And he tried to run and he failed the test. So not only does he fall, but he gets like tased by the people in suits. And it's then Zoe's following home and kind of just going to like this cool, I'm gonna be a survivor kid. And I was like, you're still in the neighborhood. Like, it's fine, you're on your bike. Yes, things are weird, but things are. So I throw in the powered character.
Oh.
There's this. I don't like. It's called an NPC, and I don't like that. That stands for non-playable character. But the idea is where we can all kind of dictate what each other do. It's more of a suggestion, like, hey, you go to check the mountain out. This character is neutral. They work. Everyone gets. There's decks of cards that you can buy for the game, and everyone says to do it. Ours was pretty lukewarm, but I want to try it again. And some of them are aspects of the character, like maybe ours was afraid of middle-aged men, especially in suits. You know, kind of E.T. sort of a feel.
Right.
Was obsessed with solving puzzles, and I gave those attributes to Zoe. Adrian was having kind of trouble contributing to the story for that sake of fear, or sake of like fear of the open world that he could create.
He didn't want to do something crazy, but
he was just like, what can I do?
Yeah, exactly.
There was an old advertisement for Dark Cloud, the old video game, and it said, when you can create anything, it's hard to do. When you can create everything, it's hard to do anything, and that's exactly how it feels. So I gave him, there's attribute cards, there's power cards, and I gave him the power of precognition. The idea is if you want to use any of the attributes of the character, you like tap it in front of them, but then that person has narration control.
Oh, okay.
So pretty much whenever this character had a precognition, Adrian had to tell us what it said.
Okay.
And I was like, good.
Cool.
You know, we're doing all these things, and we go in this. The story gets dark. They end up like running into the mountains, and there's men in suits, and there's also a cult. And Adrian ends up tied to a post, and I'm trying to get Zoe to like. At this point, I just went full dungeon master. I was like, okay, I'm making this happen. And eventually, like, he had to choose between like disappointing the NPC character he was going to save, or possibly burning Adrian. I had this whole idea that Adrian would come back as a ghost in some other story, but Adrian still lives. His eyes are completely burned out, and he lives in a crazy house. And Zoe is blamed for it and is spending the rest of her days in juvenile as a dishonored scout. We had one, and the thing is, it's mostly one-off sessions. The game is not necessarily meant to be multiple. It has rules for it. It's like, if you want to do that, we got a setup for it. But mostly it's going to be, hey, let's go on a wacky adventure and see what happens. It could be Goonies. It could be Stranger Things. It could be just, cults and burning eyes. But the idea is it's your choice. And this freedom of everyone and the GM's job just saying, okay, roll for that. Okay, that's cool. We can do that. And more just managing everything. It feels like it's almost an RPG for Dungeon Masters.
Right. So I imagine Dungeon Master, everyone's
ready to tell a story, because you don't know. I had no idea we're going to cultists.
Right.
And that just started happening. I was like, all right, I'm writing notes in the book, and I'm like, okay, cultists. I made some maps out.
So I think this would be the best way for me to get into role-playing games like these, because I have no experience with Dungeons and Dragons. But I haven't tried it, but I feel I'm really excited to just have it be my turn so I can narrate some crazy stuff, some crazy whack stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, whenever things started to stagnate, we would take a hard turn.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh, okay, so we took a break, and things were starting to stagnate.
Okay.
We ignored Adrian's character because he had been kidnapped, and the great thing is narration. He can just tell the rest of the story with everyone else until we need to go back to Adrian.
Right.
She was doing the whole survival thing. We'll go home and gather all of our supplies. I was like, we could be here all day. So, as the sun begins to set, the house lights up, and there's a spirit speaking to the NPC. You must get them! And then I set the house on fire. I was like, go, get out of there, go. And then they run, and all of a sudden it's like, you have until the sun comes up. And all of a sudden a deadline is set, and they start booking. I was like, and so you can do that weird stuff, but it's really fun to poke. I did not realize because I've been planning Paranoia. If you know RPGs, it's a big jokey RPG, but learning to poke the bear just right. And it's just this, okay, you've done enough now. Go, 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 go. And this game really opens up because anyone can do it. And as long as you follow the rules, keep it comfy, because this game is all about comfort. You know, if we aren't going to go to certain dark places like, you know, cultist and things like that, you just write it out to begin with. Please no cultist.
Right.
And then the game master's like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
we're not going to do that. But outside of that, you know, you can go wherever you want with it. So I don't know if it's perfect gateway for RPGs, but being unseasoned in them, I think you won't be constrained by that, like, well, the game master's got a story for me, right? We may meet an alien today. There may be Bigfoot. Maybe the president's gonna blow up the world and you have to and he's visiting your small town beforehand. I don't know. So it's all up to you on those.
Nice.
And I've talked to people and they say it can get dark, it can get really wacky, and it just depends on what people are in the mood for. So that was a really fascinating thing.
I want bike mechas.
If you can narrate a story that logically makes that
for the kids. They fly around.
Oh, God. Maybe for Christmas, Papa Santa Claus will hook you up with a bike mech. Oh, my goodness. What an episode this was.
There was an eventful episode. We had 2 double stars. That's awesome.
Double stars.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be back. About some great games. Oh, and we got a Jair back, I guess.
Yeah.
And tea.
And delicious tea.
Oh, that's good tea.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for listening in. I'm really excited to keep playing some more games and talking about them and hearing about your questions, your comments, your stories.
Yes.
If you play Kids on Bikes, let us know how it goes.
Yeah. Kids on Bikes, and also I told you last week, but let us know what's on your wish list. What are you hungry for? What are you hoping to grab this Christmas? It can be something new like Rise of Tribes of the Mind, but maybe it's a classic. Like, I don't know, Terraforming Mars or just a really nice chess set. I want to hear from you guys.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Let us know. And, fantastic day, and take care.
Bye, guys.